Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We hope you're enjoying the Bett Show today. I certainly am. My 18th one this year. My name's Dave Smith. I'm the Computer and Online Safety Advisor from Havering Education Services here in London. I'd like to welcome you to the Schools Theatre. If you've already been here today, then you'll have seen some of the fantastic presentations we've had on offer today. We're going to have a look at this in a little while, but before we do, just want to mention a couple of things to you, really. Just to say to you, have you had a look at the interactive app here at Bett? Have you downloaded that? Have you been accessing that? If you have been, then you'll notice that the notes and slides from today's presentations can be available for you to use and to annotate via that app. And they will be sent to you afterwards as an aide-memoire, but also for you to be able to share with colleagues. So please have a look at that. If you don't have the Bett app at the moment, you can just navigate to the web and have a look for Bett 2018 and have a look for this talk. We also have a little poll using a tool called Glisser, and you'll see that here, glsr.it/Bett Show. And we're getting ourselves to interact with that by answering some questions today. It's been very successful. So please have a look at that. And we've got a question on here just to test things out. Should a drone make its own decisions? That sounds dangerous, doesn't it? So if you are on the Glisser app and you're ready to know, if you could vote for that, just while you're doing so, if you haven't logged into the Wi-Fi here at Bett, we certainly recommend you do. And it's XL free Wi-Fi that you can have available to you. And we encourage you also to do some tweets, especially about the sessions. And our speakers really enjoy that. And the hashtag for the event is hashtag Bett 2018. So let's have a look and see if we've got any answers yet. Yes, no. Oh, look at this. Okay. Oh, okay. Making its own decisions. I mean, I've done some work with drones in schools, and some of the future of the potential use of them sounds amazing. It's also a little bit scary as well. Anyone else going to vote on there? Let's have a little look and see. Currently, is it changing? 50% of you think no. I wonder what the answer would be if we got pupils or students answering this one. There we go. So it just gives you an idea of what Glisser is and how it works. Sure, you're going to enjoy this next session. And it looks like we've got some props up on the stage here today. And going to introduce our next speaker, if we can just put up the slides for that. So we've got Micheal Miller, as a Dremel 3D ambassador, bridging the 21st century skills gap with 3D printing in the classroom. Micheal, welcome. Let's give him a round of applause. Thank you very much. Over to you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Today I'm here to talk about bridging that gap with 3D printing. And to start out, a little bit about me. I am from Otsego, Michigan in the United States. If you know where Michigan is, I am about right here. On there. I also teach computer science, and I also am an elementary technology teacher. I teach in 4 different buildings. I see about 800 students a week. So I see quite a few different type of kids, and I've taught for 15 years, and I'm very excited to be here. I also have my some Google certifications, along with I do work with Tinkercad and then the Dremel Digital Lab, or the Dremel 3D Teacher Ambassador Program. Now, my 3D printing experience started in the 2015. I was brave. It was one late night. I decided I was going to buy my first 3D printer. I didn't tell my wife, and I mean, that's why I was kind of brave. I went out and bought it, and it was about $400. And I ended up bringing it home. Or when I ended up getting it, my child was, we were putting together her seat, or her rocking chair in her room, and we ended up where we were missing a bushing. And I told my wife, she was like, we're going to take this back. And I'm like, no, wait, I can print this, I promise. So about 5 tries later, I had a bushing that it's in the rocking chair that we still use today, and it still works. So that was kind of my first experience. And since then, I have 3 personal 3D printers at home. I have 7 for the school. I've printed over 10,000 things. It's created amazing opportunities for me. I'm from a small town in Michigan, and I'm here in London speaking about 3D printing. Ignited passion for making within me. I think I've always wanted to create things, but never known how to kind of get it out. And 3D printing has allowed me to do that. Most of all, my students, it gives them amazing opportunities and things they can create and practice 21st century skills. Plus, I'm having more fun than I ever had. So we're going to go through this. I'm going to give you an example. So when we look at, okay, there we go. That was, if you know Michigan right here, that's where I'm from. This is a little update. Let's see. All right. So this is my robotics team. I'm a robotics for First Robotics. If you're not familiar with that, it's a nationwide, or it's a worldwide organization that promotes robotics. We build this big robot over here. We compete in competitions. And one of the things it does is it provides opportunities they can't have in a traditional classroom. So my students right here, they're fluxing copper so we can solder it, so we can put it on the frame of our robot. We also have 3D printed parts in there. So I have this student, Jamie, here, and I'm going to use her as my kind of example on with 21st century skills. So she ended up, she's volunteered for all my elementary programs. I do a first through third grade robotics program. I do a fourth and fifth grade. I do summer tech camps. And Jamie started with me when she was a sophomore or 10th grade. And when she was a senior, the last day of school, she came to me and said, "Hey, I got a card for you." And I was like, "All right." And she goes, "Well, you open it?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And I'll read it to you real quick. "I wanted to thank you for everything you've done for me. I know I kind of told you this, but up until the end of my sophomore year, I wanted to be a pharmacist. Thankfully, you let me help with your elementary programs, and I figured out I love things like that because me as a pharmacist would have been miserable. You gave me many opportunities these past couple years, and you really changed my life because of it." And so when I look at these experiences she's talking about, it's one she had experience with 3D printing. She had these non-traditional where she is soldering and cutting. She was on my robotics team. I forgot to mention she is valedictorian of her class. She's a very, very, very smart young lady, and she could have easily been a pharmacist with no problem. But to find her passion, what she's going to be best at, these experiences created that. So when I talk about 3D printing, hopefully those are some of those ideas will come across, and I can tell you some stories with that. So, a couple questions for you real quick before we get into a little bit more. Do you have access to a 3D printer already? So this is through Glisser. If you have that, we'll take about 10 seconds here, and then we'll move on. All right, let's see. We've got 70%. We do not have a 3D printer. So I'm talking to the right crowd. That's excellent. And the next one, let's see here. Do you know about 3D? What do you know about 3D printing? We have a 3D printer and create with my students. I know what it is, but I don't know how I would use it. That would be B. And D, don't know what it is. Or don't know what it is, but want to learn more. Okay, so a lot of you know what it is, but that's perfect. That's, again, the right crowd and what we're here for. All right, the last one, or I think there's two more. Do you have a makerspace? So if you have a makerspace, yes, no, but I would love to have one. And we are planning one, or what is a makerspace? I know in my building, in two of my buildings we have them, and the other two I don't. All right. If you don't, and then the last one, would you encourage your school district to invest in a 3D printer in the next 12 months? Hopefully after seeing my presentation that this will be something you're definitely interested in. And hopefully you'll see my experiences help with that. All right. Here we go. All right, so how would you use 3D printing in your school? I'm going to spend the next 10 minutes approximately going through some examples, 10-15 minutes of different things we've done. Anywhere from student projects to actually projects I use for robotics and how I actually have used it to save money for my school. So the first thing here is we made these, I was doing a summer tech camp, and with 3D printing, I wanted to do something 3D printing with my students. And I had about 80 students that were going to come to this tech camp, couldn't figure out what to do. So one night my son and I were reading this book, and I put a link to it, Lightsabers and the Weapons of the Jedi. And if you're a big Star Wars fan, my son's like, Dad, you can't do that. And I'm like, yeah, I can. So give me about a month. and I figured out how to do this. And what we did was they designed it in Tinkercad. It's a free program. And then we print it in 3 parts. And then it comes apart. We assemble it with a flashlight. And the flashlight turns on, and it lights it up. In the dark, it's awesome. And I put some details in there. So we talk about printing time, 4 to 6 hours. Cost to make, it's about $4.50-ish. You can probably do it a little bit cheaper depending on your filament and your fill you use in there. There's actually a link to the file. I've actually never released this to anybody at any presentation, so it is out there if you want it. You can go to the presentation, click on it, and it will bring you to Tinkercad, and you can print it. It's a simple $2 flashlight or $1.50 flashlight. It's very cheap. I've completed over 200 of these, so I'm talking from experience. It's not something just a concept. My students went home with these, and when we look at curriculum links, measurements to the 10th of a millimeter, when you're trying to design something that needs to fit and without any glue or being screwed on, this does that. I can stick this on, and it's not going to fall off or stay. I did glue these in because I was traveling, so I didn't want them to fall out, but that's one example. So this is Chelsea, and I had printed them off, and her mom emailed me and said, hey, she's going to a 4th of July party. She really wants this. Would you print this? Could you print this before everybody else's? And I said, yeah, sure. So then she sends me this message. I thought I'd show you one happy little girl with a lightsaber. Thanks again, Susan Smith. Now this girl, when we talk about encouraging the non-traditional students to get into STEM, so with the females, in particular, Chelsea was a member of my 4th grade. She's doing my 5th grade robotics, and she did 6th grade. I hope by the time she's in high school or in the secondary, she'll come and she'll be a part of my robotics team. This interest at this age, I can capture them at this age. When they get to middle school or high school, it's a lot harder to do that. So this is one way I'm doing that. Next is our Minecraft bobblehead project. So if I look at this, my son loves Minecraft, or he did. He's now in 7th grade, so it's fading a little bit. But my daughter still loves it. And my first tech camp I did was we developed, we were trying to think of what we could do. And so I was talking to my son, and he said, oh, let's do something Minecraft. Let's put out a character. And I said, all right, that's cool. But I said, I want to make it a little bit more difficult. So we ended up making a bobblehead. He had a bobblehead in his room. I took a spring. And you can something simple as taking it from a pen spring that bounces, that you take it out of there, and you measure the width of the spring, and then I put it into Tinkercad again and drew it. So these are some examples. That's the one I drew. Someone did slime here, and I think this is an Ender Dragon. This is a little bit more complex one. Very cheap to do. The spring, about 8 cents, 65 cents for the total cost. Again, editable files here. We've made over 100 of them. Great project, easy to do, a low printing time, about an hour and 20 minutes. You probably can do a little cheaper. And again, measurement, volume. You can do writing, just like the lightsaber project I forgot to mention, that students love to write about something that's physical. So if you should tell them to draw you a picture or show them something, they might write about it some, and they might give you some details. If you give them something like this to write about that they've created, their engagement increases dramatically. So with my students, even though it was a summer camp, I was able to get them write about their Minecraft character and their lightsaber. So those are some things to think about. Also, the 21st century skills of problem solving, communication, critical thinking, and creativity all went into this. So all those skills, they had to think through it. How am I going to solve this problem? How am I going to make this something that's printable? And it was a great experience. So this is the summer tech camp I was talking about. We don't have time to look at this video, but if you want to look at it, this was what I do, a week-long camp. The kids have a lot of fun there. 3D printing is a part of it. I had a high school student that came to me, and this was about a month ago. And he goes, Mr. Miller, I want to do a project, extra credit for my chemistry class. And I said, all right, that's cool. And he goes, I said, what do you want to do? He goes, I want to build a caffeine element. He showed me that. And I said, all right, how are you going to do it? He goes, I don't know. I said, well, draw it in Tinkercad and we'll go from there. And so he ended up drawing it in Tinkercad. He had the file. We printed them out. He took a hot glue gun, and we had some sticks that we put in between. And all these holes were strategically placed in Tinkercad so that he could then assemble it. And he took it into his chemistry teacher, and they're like, this is awesome. I can't believe, now I have something physical. And it was funny, I was in my robotics lab. That teacher comes into me and says, hey, how about if I want to do some more? I've got some students I want to explain some stuff to, and I'd really like to be able to have some more of these so I could do that. So it sparked the teacher's interest that, it drew them in a way that normally I didn't expect. So again, all the curriculum links with the elements, chemistry, measurement, we can talk about volume, how much it would take to print that, 3D design. And then the problem solving was huge on this because I didn't give them anything. I said, you're a sophomore, you figure it out, and then we'll print it and see what happens. And it turned out great, and he did a great job with it. So we did spinners. Are you guys familiar with spinners? Show of hand. All right. So back in November of last year, I had a student introduce me to this. I didn't know what it was, and he's like, hey, can I make one? And I was like, yeah, okay. And he's like, I'll provide all the parts. So we made one, and then the rest of the class said, well, I want to make one. So we said, okay. And it turned out to be a great activity. The bearings, you can either find them in skateboards. If you talk to kids about them, they'll actually try to find them at home. Or you can buy them off like Amazon. They're about 25 cents a piece. Filament, very cheap on this project. So if you're looking at something that's easy, that's fun, the kids love, and then I'm again made with some you can download. You can make it with Tinkercad. I know Dremel has one on their site, but this was a cool project. And we talk about connections. So this is Luke and this is Bryant. Luke actually decided that he really liked this. And before that, they were seniors. They were kind of disinterested with class. They're like, yeah, Mr. Miller, I get it. All right, I got to be here. And it was computer science. And so we had a break and kind of like some of the kids were still getting done with stuff. So Luke he started talking to me and asking me about printers. And I'm like, oh, he's going to buy a printer. I think he wants to. So he ended up spending about $500, $400 on a lower end printer. He then started printing these spinners and selling them at school. He ended up making enough money where he paid for his printer. And he finally got so annoyed that people kept asking him about it, he kind of stopped doing it. But he made it into his business. He was an entrepreneur because of that. And then I've got Bryant over here. This helped me connect with him with my content for computer science. After we started doing this type of stuff, when we were going back to my computer and science part, I had that connection with him. And and now he decided he wants to go to, or he's enrolled in a community college and computer science is his minor. So it's pretty cool that you can make the connections. It's not just to me just about 3D printing. It's about some of the other connections that you make. This one is, I use this in my first through third grade Lego robotics program. It's something I developed. We build these cars. Every week we have a different type of car we build. This one happens to be jet powered. I call it my jet powered one. And with this particular one, it's designed in Tinkercad. It's designed with a hole so it clips directly onto my Lego car. A balloon is up here at the top. It blows up, and it pushes it down the ramp. It's about an hour and 20 minutes to print. Students didn't print this one. I did. I made about 30 of them for me so that they could use on their project. Now, we could, there's a link to the video down here we're going to show. And this is the kids that are using it. So if this is one of our hallways, and you can see that it's blowing it out. This is a better view coming up here. The girl forgets to there's a cotton ball in the back of it. So when she takes it out, it takes off. And as you can see, it will push it along. And we designed it exactly to do that. Now, if you go back to the main screen, it took me 6 renditions here to get to that one. So as an instructor, I had to learn like what worked, what didn't. My first year we did it, I think we did it with one of these, and it didn't work very well. Now this one, it snaps on, it doesn't fall off. When it has the pressure from the balloon, it works great. So a lot of fun there. Engineer, this is another one, and I know I'm going through these quickly, but I want to make sure I give you all these examples. You can come back and download these for free, take them, steal them. I was introduced to this at a conference, and I think I improved this lesson on it. So we have the 3 little pigs, classic story. I printed out all of the pigs. They cost, again, about 25 cents a piece. We made the houses, and that was kind of where they're engineering the story. So they made the houses, and they had to withstand the big bad wolf and his big sister. So what would happen is, and I'm going to show you a video here in a minute, that the students had to think about the design. What was going to make it fall down? What would make it strong? And so this is one of their classic designs that they did. This one actually is probably their more advanced, where they have a patio and everything else. But you can see the 3 little pigs in there. So the cost of doing this is hardly anything for 3D printing, but having a 3D printed pig they can take home if they're successful, plus a big bad wolf, sells the story. So here we go. So I don't usually do selfies. I don't like selfies, but they convinced me to. My students are like, hey, Mr. Miller, we got to do a selfie. So this is a video of one of them, one of the students, or 2 of the students, trying to see if they were successful or not with it. So they're trying to blow it off the stage.
Push it, Ethan. Go quick.
I don't know about you, but I think they're having fun and very effective. And so you can go back. When I talk about different things with my students, I also look at, I needed a robotics trophy. And I have that one of them example right here. Now, normally I do them a little bit bigger, but it cost me about $2.60 to make. This will save me about 260 euros over trophies. I have 80 students in my program. If I were to have something for all of them, that's one way I could. That's one way I'll save money. And I've made probably 200-300 of those. They take forever, and it takes a very long time. However, it's very effective. And you can see this is one of the benefits of being in my program. If you're in robotics, you'll get one of the robotic bulldogs, and the gold one is the winning one. And so everybody's always seeking to get the winning bulldog robotic. And it's something I, again, designed in Tinkercad, and it's a cost saving for me. I actually want to do a Lego trophy, but it was too expensive to do. This Lbracket, so this is another example. So I'm building, and I don't have the example up here, for robotics, I am building these workbenches for our pit area. And they're very big, and they're going to be on casters and wheels. This bracket, if I were to buy it, it's about, let's see here, it's about just over $5 if it's in aluminum. I can print it and use it, and it's still safe for me to use. We did some testing with it, and it will save me about 420 euros. So when I talk about using parts for different things, for me it's not just about, I love to use it in the classroom, but I look at other areas for that. So again, that's another area where I can do that. Last example is going to be, I do First Robotics. If you're not familiar with First Robotics, again, it's a nation or worldwide organization, and basically we have a competition. We have robots. This is an example of the field. The robots can move around the field. I printed this out, and we're going to use it as a strategy board for my students, so they can form a strategy on how their robots have to work together and what they can do. Very cool project. Cost me about $10 to make, a little bit of time, and that's what it looks like, and it's pretty awesome. Now, how do I get started? The first thing I always look at is safety. So if you look at, this is Dremel's new 3D-45. I actually have put about 380 hours on it. Great printer. It's all enclosed. Has air filtration. Here's some of the other standards or the safety things that are with it. But for the price point and what you get with it and the quality out of it, the safety is the first thing I look at. Then I look at ease of use. How easily can I use it? Can I put it, is it something that I'm going to have to work on? Someone always told me, well, you want to build your own 3D printer so then you'll know how to fix it. No, I want to be able to use my 3D printer and not fix it. And I just had, I have the 3D-40 also, which is the other one. I had the extruder went bad on me. I called Dremel. The next day I had the part waiting on my doorstep. So I immediately could get using it again. So that was very effective. Software, I'm going to show you, I'm printing something in the US right now that is, I started here about, I don't know, 30 minutes ago or so. So I'll show you that here in a minute. Then what do you want to build? You know, what dimensions we can, it's about the size of a piece of paper is the plate. So that's one thing, you know, to think about, and about 8, 9 inch the depth to it. And then I look at cost. I know a lot of people look at cost first, but I like to look at all these things before I go to cost. Now, the software for the printer cloud, if you sign your printer up as a US printer, you can use this version of it. These are all the examples. Actually, if you want to go to, I'll show you the live version of it right now. This is a live version. You'll see it updated about every 5 seconds. I started this about 20, 30 minutes ago before this presentation. And this is happening at my house. I moved it to my house to make sure it worked for this presentation. But this is a live view of it. So I started it from over here. I can monitor it when it's done. I'll see that. I could have my wife take it off the board. It's pretty amazing. So yeah, so you can go back to that. You can go back to my presentation. So this is, you know, I can print it from anywhere I want. And I actually started it from my cell phone. My computer wouldn't connect, so I started it from my cell phone. So it's pretty slick. This is a chart to one of the most common questions I get is how much I can produce. So for my Lifesaver, cost per gram is about 5 cents with the Dremel filament. Weight in grams, so for the lightsaber it was 65 grams. Cost is going to be $3.25. I can get about 8 lightsabers out of a spool, a 0.5 kilogram spool. Minecraft bobblehead 42. The Caffeine Element 23, which I think that was an estimate. I had to guess because I didn't have it with me to weigh. And then we got spinners, pigs, jetpacks, all the way down. One of the easiest ways to get into it is keychains and bookmarks. By far, if you want to do a lot of stuff for with a lot of kids, keychain and bookmarks, you can print those out. Usually about 10, 15 minutes, you can rip them out pretty quick. And kids like that, that's an easy way to do it with the big classes like I do. Now, where do I get my lessons from? I've actually been asked this several times today. At Dremel, we have the lesson plans that are set up for elementary, middle school, high school, higher education than institutions that you can get. So that's a great place to start. And there are so many other web resources out there that, you know, if you're not sure what you want to print, start with something simple like these. You know, start with a ruler. Start with some loaded die, and then you can go from there. If you want to create Tinkercad, Tinkercad is a free program. You can actually manage your students. It's absolutely free, and it is a 3-dimensional design. So what you can do is drag and drop. It's a lot like SketchUp, but easier, in my opinion. If you anybody used SketchUp before? Okay, so Tinkercad is owned by Autodesk. And Autodesk does AutoCAD. They bought this a couple years ago, and then now I've turned this into their intro level. I would highly, highly recommend, because you can download the STL file and then upload it to the printer software and go from there. And then they can have stuff for laser cutting and other stuff you can do. And it also has a component for electronics and some other cool stuff. So we probably, let me see here. I don't have time for this video. You know what, click on it and we'll watch the first part of it. If I don't know anything, this was like 2 months after I started my first 3D printer. So we had one of my kids' teachers had a chicken that had a deformed leg or wing, and so we made him a prosthetic leg, kind of.
Fighter is teaching kids in Otsego about compassion and engineering. It's not your typical lesson plan. Jessica Wheeler visited Washington Street Elementary School to see how they're doing it. She's live in the newsroom with their inspiring story. Jessica, good morning.
Good morning, Marcy. The second graders are learning about the life cycle of animals, raising chickens from eggs. But one of their chicks was born with a deformity, so the kids decided to put another learned skill to the test thanks to a 3D printer.
She just kept fighting, so the kids have named her Fighter.
It's been an uphill fight for this 4-week-old chick, but with the help of this class of second graders, she's rising to the challenge.
Just kind of good to just help her.
And along the way, they're learning more than just about the cycle of life.
They have learned compassion. In nature, things die. You have the pecking order, but our children have learned to really care about this chicken.
Here's the issue. Fighter was born without the use of one of her legs. That's when technology teacher Micheal Miller made a joke that Catherine Reifert's second grade class took to heart.
Once we let the kids run with it, they really just pulled it together.
With the use of the school's 3D printer, the kids helped design a new foot for Fighter.
Could these be shorter, maybe?
Learning skills typically reserved for much older kids.
Fun, everybody was engaged. They're talking about spacing, all the things we want them to be doing, and they're applying it to something practical.
It's been trial and error as the kids work to find out what works best for this tiny chick.
The first one we wanted to do more like a claw, but then we were afraid that it would get it stuck in there, and so the kids kind of came up with the rounded to allow it to glide more so, not really act as a leg, but more as a support for it.
Support for a helpless animal and a big-time lesson in love for these pint-sized engineers.
I know that the students are getting a lot out of this with compassion and caring and trying to make.
All right. So if you go back, just finish up here real quick. Be brave. Don't be afraid to try things. I was, and the road for me has been amazing. I've been all over the U.S. talking on different things that I've been doing. And what's next for me? Dremel's coming out with their laser cutter coming up here, and this is kind of the next part to my maker mindset. If you want to, there's we have an example at the lab here. We're at C411. So this is kind of what I'm looking at that's next for me, along with 3D printing. So I'm hopefully going to merge these two together with my students and see what we can do. So thanks for letting me share my story. If you want to contact me, clarkmiller14@gmail or mmiller@ps.org or at clarkmiller14. Also stop by booth C411, and there's entered a chance to win the 3D45 printer. There are slips there to do that. So please come by and see us. If you have any questions, I'll be outside, or you can see me at the booth. I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you very much, Mike. That was fantastic, inspirational. I have to say, as a primary teacher, that's the best presentation I've seen on using 3D printing and concepts of it. And you told us how to get best value as well by not spending too much money. So this guy's great. Follow him on Twitter. I've just done so. Okay, and email him and ask for some stuff. But go and see him on the stand as well. Go and ask him some questions now. Give him another round of applause. Thank you very much. Well done.